According to the Holy Scriptures, Yahweh Shai, the Son of the Most High, is set to bring immortality to the nation of Israel, the elect, via establishing the tabernacle of David, as we talk about the second coming of who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. He is coming to take down this current world ruled by Esau, Edom, and establish a righteous kingdom, which is synonymous with the throne of David. That's scriptural, which is a government that's going to run this world in righteousness.
After this manner therefore pray ye, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
A transfer of rulership is coming, and the kingdom of heaven will be on earth. Righteousness will be spread throughout the whole four corners of the earth. Wickedness will be put down. Eternal life. That's what's promised to the elect. All right, all Israel, but it starts with the elect. And that's how the earth will be governed by immortals, perfect angelic forces who are going to come down and rule on earth. Extraterrestrial bodies will be able to do things that humans do, but in heavenly bodies, like eating, drinking. Did not Yahweh Shai say he's going to drink wine with us in the kingdom? Well, how do you drink wine with a spiritual body? Well, we're going to have out of this world capabilities in those new bodies.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, we would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Makadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the whole elect out there, pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Makadash, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the whole elect, the believers, the listeners, whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. All right, with brother GMS Mississippi Camp come with another, all right, weekly lesson, continuing on in the book of Proverbs chapter 1, all right, the introduction to wisdom part 2, and lady wisdom, because as we come back, to the understanding of the scriptures, well, the scriptures, have elevated us, the scriptures have put us on game, okay, prophecies, the practical wisdom, so the Bible is a book that's full of, wisdom in every aspect, for every situation, for every time period, for every age, we have a collection, this wisdom via the Bible, plus the Holy Spirit, the Lord has endowed, his hopeful elect with, to be able to tap into these things and apply, all through faith, real time, so we're going to get into, continue on in Proverbs chapter 1, all right, start at verse 8, bro, Baba Shah.
Come on, bro, guys. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 1, starting at verse 8. It says, "My son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother.
Yeah, so going into the instruction of the father, okay, and the law of our mother. Now, in the ancient world, all right, the man, all right, the father will put the spirit, okay, on the woman, all right, and the women were the first teachers, all right, and what were we being taught? Okay, we wasn't, all right, learning, okay, a Western school curriculum in the ancient world. No, we were being taught, the alphabet, the ABCs, the Hebrew, okay, alphabet. Okay, we was being taught the history of our forefathers. We were being taught the law. Okay, so we was bred, all right, in true wisdom. Okay, when we had our sovereignty in the ancient world. Now, in this time in the spirit, dealing with the heavenly Father, and our mother being likened unto this wisdom. All right, and what does a mother do? She's nurturing. Your mother has your best interest in mind. All right, she's she guards you. Okay, she's always putting you on game. How to operate. Okay. So when you go into this wisdom, we're getting that discipline and that nourishing again, because your father will be the discipline and, your father, you will get the vision, from your father. Your father, he will put you in the legacy mindset, while your mother nurtures you, your father will give you that discipline, all right, and legacy, a visionary. Okay. So we've come back to this wisdom and we have both aspects like a ancient world father and mother that's in a right spirit. Okay, so we're getting that discipline and nourishing, as we would, all right, from the from a righteous father and mother. Okay, so let's get that real quick in the book of Sirach chapter 4 and verse what's that Sirach 4 started started at 11, bro.
Come on, I got
Well, matter of fact, before we start that, get Sirach 30 and 1. Let's deal with the father first, and then we'll switch over to, the aspect of a mother. But you got it, bro.
Come on,
Sirach 30 and 1. Then we'll go to Sirach 4 and 11. You got it, bro.
come on, this book of Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus chapter 30, starting at verse 1. He that loveth his son causeth him off to feel the rod, that he may have joy of him in the end.
Yeah, he that loveth his son will cause him off to feel the rod. Okay? And chastise. You see, and this is why we've been in these captivity. Okay? And that's the heavenly father was chastening his sons. So he can have joy of us at the end. You see, these captivities weren't meant to destroy us, man. It was meant to perfect us. Yahweh Shai was perfected in suffering, man. You know,
Mm.
now he's that finished product at the right hand of the Father. And now we're, okay, on that quest, all right, to be that finished product, to be joint heirs with Yahweh Shai. So this is our last chastening, so the Lord can have joy of us at the end, okay? Like a righteous father would do for his son. He would chasten him out of love. Okay. So now let's go to Sirach 4 and 11, bro.
Come on, I got a precept on it for that one too.
Come on, you get your precept, then we'll get Sirach 4 and 11.
Come on, real quick, Proverbs, because you're going to that um what's that? He who loveth his son causes him to feel the rod. Well, it's saying the same thing as in Proverbs. Sure, I think it's 13 and 24. You talking about the Lord chastises them he loves.
Mm-hmm.
This is Proverbs 13 and 24. It says, he that spareth the rod hated his son, but he that loveth
Mm-hmm.
his son chastised him betimes.
Yeah, beat times, and that's often. Every time that it needs to happen. And chastising isn't, just physical, okay? Because even in this captivity, we went through chattel slavery. That was a physical chastisement, But the Lord is finishing us off with physical chastisement, the vexation of this wicked world, as we've come back to righteousness, man. You know, so the Lord chastened us often because we needed it often, man. Okay, But now we're at the time when they're final chastening, man. And the Father, all right, we're going to be a finished product that's pleasing to the Father, all right, through Yahweh Shai. Okay? You got it, bro.
You said Sirach 4, which verse?
Start at 11.
This is the book of Sirach or Ecclesiastes chapter 4, starting at verse 11. Wisdom exalted her children and laid hold of them that seek her.
Oh, it said wisdom exalted her children, going back to Proverbs. Take the instructions of our Father, our mother. So really, it's wisdom. You see, it's wisdom. Okay, it's parenting us, man. We're the children of wisdom. Go ahead.
Verse 12, it says, He that loveth her loveth life, and they that seek to her early shall be filled with joy.
Yeah, because now as we are being filled with this wisdom, we got a joy in what's happening in the world. As people are in the spirit of you know, uh depression, anxious, fear, doubtful, confused. Or guess what? We're in the spirit of joy. But what has us in the spirit of joy? Wisdom, because we know what's to come next. We have the understanding of what's getting ready to happen, man. Okay? So that puts us in the spirit of joy. And it's this wisdom that has us in joy because we understand what it is. The Lord has given us the faith. He's given us his fear. All right, to have a reverence for him. And he give us understanding the prophecy and the expectation beyond this world. But that all comes with tapping into wisdom, seeking this wisdom, man. Okay, everything is coming full circle for us. Everything is making more and more sense. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 13, it says, He that holdeth her fast shall inherit glory. Whosoever
Yep.
she shall enter, the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai will bless.
Yeah, so the Lord will bless. The Lord, as the scriptures say, let's get that real quick in Wisdom of Solomon 7. We'll come back to this. Let's get Wisdom of Solomon 7.
That's,
Uh,
that's the spirit
Start, I
of.
think, verse 28.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah, it's the spirit, bro. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 28. For the Most High
Yep.
loveth none but him that dwelleth with wisdom.
Yeah, the Most High loveth none but him that dwelleth with wisdom. So the Lord loves to see his sons operate in wisdom real time. You know, the Most High loves none other but those that dwell with wisdom. And who's dwelling in wisdom? The true sons of God. Okay, go ahead. You go back to Sirach 4 and I think you was at 13, 14.
Okay.
I think 14. Yep.
Well, this book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 4, verse 14. They that serve her shall minister to the Holy One, and them that
Yep.
loved her to the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai doeth love.
Go ahead. You read that. Yep.
Verse 15. Whoso giveth ear unto her shall judge the nations, and
Oh,
he
wait a minute. The stakes just went up. You see? Hey, the stakes went up drastically, man. You see? That's part of the contract. You see, you got that's why Jake get caught up on where your friend is at. But there's so much beautiful wisdom in the book, man. There's so many things that the Lord just done put in the contract. You know, it's like you have the Bible like a big contract that's full of all type of perks, man. You see, because you just casually read it, you got to sit up. You might be laid back reading it. You got to sit up. What they say? Yeah, read it again.
come. Verse 14. No, verse 15. Whosoever giveth ear unto her shall judge the nations, and he that
Yep.
attended
So
unto her
shall
shall.
judge the nation. Now you got it.
It says, and he that attended unto her shall dwell securely.
Shall dwell securely. Okay, so you're gonna judge the nations and dwell securely. Okay, because we're gonna be immortal. We're gonna have power. We're gonna have the chariots. Okay, we're gonna be judging the nations, man. We're gonna be truly untouchable, man. You see, that's what Esau want to be. He wants our blessing. Well, we're gonna be untouchable in our blessing, man. Okay, we're not gonna be getting bombed and you see having to wage war and travel across the earth and deploy troops and no, we're gonna be and we're gonna dwell securely and we're gonna rule over the nations, man. We're gonna show these nations how to rule in true power and righteousness, man. But first, it begins with wisdom. We're being established with wisdom. Okay, because think about the balance that the Lord is doing with His men. Because we're going to be, you can't even quantify how much more powerful we're going to be. Because everybody boasts America got the biggest military that ever. Okay, well, when we get our power, okay, well, you're not even going to be able to quantify how much stronger we are than a goddamn American military, man. Okay, but even in that, on the flip side, to show you how balanced we're gonna be, there's not gonna be another war. You see, because true power doesn't start wars. True power, all right, ends wars. God's coming to end wars forever. Okay, and we're gonna rule in righteousness, man. You see, we're gonna dwell securely. You see, but it starts with what? Tapping into wisdom. Okay, lady wisdom, man. It said, "They that rule shall inherit the nations, man." That's heavy. Go ahead, you got it, bro. Keep going.
I got a quick one for you, real quick. This is a clip going into how you said wisdom
You
is
got it.
is
You
the,
got it.
is the foundation. This is Ecclesiastes Sirach, same book, chapter 1, verse 4 and 5. It says, "Wisdom has been created before all things, the understanding of prudence from everlasting. The word of the power most high is the foundation of wisdom, and her ways are everlasting commandments. To
Mm-hmm.
whom
You
have the
break
root
down, bro. We're gonna get
gone?" No, I said wisdom had been created before all things. And where did it come from? Wisdom came from the Most High, the Most High Yahweh, you know? And that's why it says it was created before all things, because it was with him. It says, in the understanding of the prudence from everlasting, it says the word of the Most High is the foundation of wisdom. So like the quote we're going into, wisdom is the foundation, going back into the Most High. His word lays the foundation for everything, for life, for creation, for how literally everything works. When Allah Hayim created, they looked and said it was good because it was built off of the wisdom of the Father. It says her ways are everlasting commandments, going back into the word. And like you said, the contract, bro. Like it's literally nothing but perks and everything. It's a cheat code on how to run the world. It says, "To whom have the root of wisdom been revealed, or whom have known her wise counsel?" And ultimately, like we were going into, we know that wisdom and that wise counsel going back into those who are going to be judging the nations, who are going to be in rulership. This all goes back to the true nation of Israel, starting with the Most High Yahweh Shai, and the ordering going all the way down to the least of the nation of Israel.
come, come. Hey, this the Bible is really rulership 101.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the Lord stripped us down the nut. You know, and put us in the lab. You see, you gotta really look at it like that. Because hey, as me and this brother know, all right. Well, when you renovate something, well, you gotta do the demo first. So Most High, he broke us up. Yeah, yeah, he broke us up. You know, but now we to the part of building back. You see, and the Bible is building us back. Captivity, it was that demolition. Okay, but in captivity we would come into the truth, and this when the Lord start building back. You know, rulership 101. Our Baratazar we endure. You know, so we can. That's you can go back and say a proverb, bro. I think the point be made on that.
You
We're
should go
gonna
back to
shift
Proverbs.
gears because as we go back, yeah, go back to Proverbs 1 and 8. Yeah, because we're gonna shift gears. Because this is heavy. Going into the times that we're going to now. now. So yeah, let's get that Proverbs 1 and 9, bro.
Because this book of Proverbs chapter 1, verse 9, for they shall be an ornament of grace upon thy head and chains about thy neck.
Yep, go ahead. Hey, because you got to make yourself a prisoner, to the truth. It said, for they shall be an ornament of grace upon thy head and chains about thy neck, you know, because before the scripture say before honor is humility, and that's one of the things that this wisdom, enforces is humility, because we come from a culture that pushes pride. This is a culture, dealing with America where pride is a culture. Okay, it's a goddamn pride contest, man. But now the scriptures, humble us down, and it shackles us to this wisdom. We live in a society where, because that's even a saying in this world, where he off the chain, she off the chain. But no, wisdom teaches restraint. We need a chain, okay? Because Esau sets up this, society where you can just self-destruct and call it liberty, man. No, wisdom put up guardrails that's needed. Okay, you need that, the guardrail, to keep us on point. You see, and this is what we're getting back to, man, because that's part of our culture restraint. Show you how our culture is completely opposite from how we've been cultivated in this society, man. Okay, this culture is about indulge. Our culture is about restraint. You got it, bro.
And if I may, I was looking for that precept, bro. But it goes into, if I'm not mistaken,
What's that?
about how wisdom searches throughout. Tested those. Start with that discipline of who she shall dwell within. Roughly paraphrasing.
Oh yeah, this that same chapter. That's the
Okay,
same
okay.
chapter we were just in. Sirach 4:17. Yeah, you go Sirach, I think 4:17.
Con. I know I butchered it probably.
Yeah, you was close to it.
This is the book of Ecclesiastes, Sirach chapter 4, verse 17. For at the first she will walk with him by crooked ways, and bring fear
Yep.
and dread upon him, and torment him with her discipline until she make trust his soul and try him with her laws. Because of course, we were all in the world. When the Lord started to send His wisdom upon us, we were walking, we was in the world, going into the crooked ways. But it began like that fear, and Yahweh Shema Shah began to come in. And why I said, and they bring fear and dread upon him, because when you had that fear in Yahweh Shema Shah, when we first started coming into this thing, we like, man, like I can't do that. Like the Lord gonna fuck me up. I can't do that, because you going into, you starting that transitioning phase. Before it becomes, what they call it, muscle memory. But initially when wisdom come upon you in the world, you start to, okay, I can't do that, and then you start to, you always start to have that, what they call your conscience speaking to you, going, that's wisdom talking to you with that discipline. Don't do that. And you don't need to do that there. It says it shall torment him with her discipline. It's a transition. And it says until she may trust his soul and try him by her laws. So going throughout that process, eventually, once you begin to be given fully over to Yahweh Shema Shai, but fully over to his ministry and his truth, then the wisdom starts to become like what it said, you shall be like going to Yahweh Shai, like living waters. We begin to understand, as we were talking about last week, becoming an expert, with the wisdom in every way possible. And it says it shall try him by her laws. We all go through things and we all get tried in this world, but ultimately we follow the way of Yahweh Shema Shah to the best of our abilities.
Come, bro. And it's a never-ending process. We're constantly learning what's acceptable and not acceptable, man. We're constantly being tried by wisdom. It's an ongoing process until the return of Yahweh. You know, And so whatever level we on, whenever we level up, well, there's another level of discipline that's required. We level up in wisdom, where there's another level of discipline, that's required. So the Lord leveled us up in the spirit, but then He requires another level of discipline, man. You know, so it's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing process until we're perfected at the return of Yahweh. You got it, bro.
God, back in Proverbs chapter 1, read verse 9 again, it says, "For they shall be an ornament of grace upon thy head, and chains about thy neck. My son, if sinners
Mhm.
entice thee, consent thou not."
Yeah,
If
the
they
sinners entice thee,
Mhm.
consent not that. Now, of course, you can go into the world, especially dealing with Jake, 2/3. Okay, but on a high level, especially since we're in the time of the hour of temptation, okay, hey, we got to apply this to who? The man of sin, Esau. Okay, real quick, get that in Second Thessalonians 2. He wants to entice with this new world order. Okay, and then we can look up that word entice too.
You went out, bro. You said Second Thessalonians 2, and which one?
7.
Oh, I was thinking that. Second Thessalonians chapter 2,
And
verse
then
7. It says, "For the mystery of iniquity doeth work already. Only he who now let will let until he be taken out of the way."
and this was during the time of Edom Rome. All right, so Esau Edom. All right, and the man of sin was in rulership then. He will fall, but he had one more run. He on his last run. Because he was prophesied. All right, to be loosed for a little season. We're in that little season. He was prophesied to come and build, but the Lord would throw down again. Okay, go ahead. But now we're in the time where he's going to be taken out of the way. You got it, bro.
It says, and then shall the wicked be revealed, whom the Lord Yahweh shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming.
Yeah, it's the brightness of Yahweh. So now the man of sin is revealed.
Mm-hmm.
So now, okay, the man of sin. So now when you go back to Proverbs 1 and 10, read it again.
Come on. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 10, it says, "My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not."
Yeah, so we know, the straight nigga walking around. Okay, Eve, the nigga woman. Okay, we know on that level. But then what's the highest level when you go to the, sinners? Well, it's Esau. He's the man of sin. Okay, and what he's finna entice people with. All right, the seal. Okay, well, that's gonna be the ultimate rebellion. That's the high form of rebellion that anyone can do is get this seal, because this is the ultimate rebellion. That's why even America is called Maratayam in the Hebrew, okay, which is double rebellion. You see? So this place is built on rebellion. All right. And the biggest form of rebellion is to merge yourself with this technology, man. Because that means you're in full agreement with the rebellion. This gonna be the biggest enticement to sin ever, man. This the garden 2.0. Okay, that this devil is on, man. Okay? You got it, bro.
Precepts, Conway said, because Esau is a man of sin and a man of perdition, if I'm not mistaken.
Come.
First, like verse 11, it says, "If they say, come with us, let us lay wait for blood, let us lurk privately, for the innocent will not cause." So I can for the innocent
Yeah,
without cause.
yeah, because to be down with this new world order, you gotta completely denounce righteousness, man. Because we know the devil finna demonize the church, the prophets, man. Okay, and you taking this seat hill. Guess what? You're guilty. Okay, with the persecution of the righteous, man. You're agreeing with the system that's getting ready to persecute the righteous, man. Hey, what did niggas say? during Yahushua, let his blood be on us and our children. They didn't physically kill Yahushua, but they consented. You see, Esau wants to exile Yahushua. And you take this seed here, nigga, you consented. You see? He wants to undermine the promises, the blessing, man. Okay? So you take and then the seed here was a blood covenant because they gotta, you gotta get their karoks. You gotta get stabbed. Okay? That's a blood covenant, man. You see? What you gotta do? You keep reading, bro.
I want to get this here for you, bro. I want to read it again. It's verse 11. It says, if they say, come with us, let us lay wait for blood and let us lurk privately for the innocent without cause. We know who the innocent is, going into ultimately the tribes. And this time the elect, the 1/3. But key emphasis here on this where it says, let us lurk privately. I'm gonna look that up in the blue letter because then it'll kind of give you a pinpoint on exactly who we're talking about here. Because you said who is at the highest point of of this sin here, what's going on. Well, that's these elites. These people who sit behind these closed doors, and like we going into the other day, we talking about bunkers and all that. They probably already there. They're not out making these things. They're not out saying stuff, or they got to face everything. Your president to face, Klaus Schwab, all these niggas to face, WF, UN, NATO, all that's just a face for what they're doing. But the point here is they're lurking privately, and this is that word lurk privately here. Tapayon? Is it Tapayon?
Where you at? Let me see. Hold on. Let me go back. Let me blow it up.
Come.
Let me see where you. Your Taza Pun.
Taza Pun. Come. Taza Pun. We try to pronounce the Hebrew version, letting the blue letter do it. Okay, the point is it says for definition 3 to hide or hide from discovery. So for a while, the Lord said all things done in secret, all those things will be brought, will be manifested, meaning we'll know. But for a while, a long time before the Lord brought all these things out, these elites were, they were hiding. They was in the background, making all these decisions and everything. It says to hide, to lay up, to lurk. The hidden ones, privately, secret places, be secret. So they pointed, they was in all these little secret councils, as King David was saying in the Book of Psalms, making all of these decisions, to trip up the nations. Esau, he loved blood, so he wanted the blood of the nations. That's why King David says, hide me from the secret council of the wicked. So going back to nowadays, that secret council of the wicked at the highest level is these elites sitting behind these bunkers or these real closed off guarded areas where can't nobody get to them right now. Making all these decisions that that their little puppets and everything go out and manifest out for them.
Mm-hmm. Come, bro.
Verse 12, it says, you got some, bro?
Nah, you got it. Go ahead. You go, verse 12.
Now, verse 12, it says, let us swallow them up alive as the grave and whole as those that go down into the pit.
Go ahead, keep reading.
We shall find all precious substance. We shall find our horses will spoil.
We shall fill our houses with spoil.
We shall fill our houses with spoil. Slocky, bro.
Yeah, because Esau, he wants that birthright. In his mind, he thinks that if he can change, the nations, erase people, from being nations, his technology changing people's, DNA and, what they call hacking. And we say people are hackable, and the devil Noah Yuval Harari. People are hackable. Okay. Yeah, this nigga wants to run off with the birthright. He wants to bless himself with the birthright. He wants to hijack creation, okay, and make it into his image, man. That's why I say it's full of all precious things, because in his mind, if he can eradicate the prophets, okay, and get everyone else to sell out, well, the birthright is, because he sold the birthright. So in his mind, well, we're going to eradicate anyone that wants to make a claim to a birthright, okay, and we're going to get the rest to sell out. So that in his mind was a birthright mind. Plus I'm gonna change nations because there's prophecy linked to nations. So I'm gonna change what it is to be a human with technology. Because that's what they say. Once you merge with technology, you don't ain't no constitution, because you're not. The constitution was for humans. You see, if he can get you to merge with this technology, well, you a patent now. Okay, so in this mind, this devil, he's finna spoil the earth. He's finna, because right now the earth is giving it to the hand of the wicked. Okay, so this devil thinks he's gonna run off with the birthright, the birthright, man. Okay, matter of fact, real quick, let's get that Sirach 16. I want to say 11, might be 16 and 11. The book of Sirach.
Is it Sirach 16?
Yeah, I want to say 16 and 11. Then we'll get back to it.
It says if there be one stiff neck.
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
No, this is the book of Sirach, Ecclesiastes chapter 16, verse 11. It says, if there be one stiff necked among the people, it is marvel if he escape unpunished. For mercy and wrath are with him. He is mighty to forgive to the poor out the displeasure.
Yeah, so he's mighty to forgive and pour out displeasure, and said, if there be one stiff neck among the people, it is a marvel if he escaped unpunished. Okay? So there's no way Esau, a whole nation that has done all this wickedness, is going to go unpunished. All right? And you can jump down to 13, Baba Kashah.
Verse 13, it says, the sinner shall not escape. The sinner shall not escape with his spoils, and the patience of the godly shall not be frustrated.
Oh, so you see that duality. He is mighty to forgive, which is speaking of the elect of Israel. And then also he's mighty to pour out displeasure, which is going to be for Esau and everyone that's in agreement with this nigga, man. You take that C hill, you're in agreement. Okay? But then it says the sinner shall not escape with his spoil. Esau trying to spoil the earth. He's trying to take the birthright. Okay? He wants to put a patent on the resources. He wants to be able to distribute life unto you through his technocracy, man. He wants to be able to distribute life down to the molecule to you, man. Okay? So this man thinks he's finna get away with this spoil. No, if there be one stiff neck, if one stiff neck don't get away, what the Lord gonna do to a whole nation? Okay? And the sinner, going back to that sinner, you see, then shall the man of sin be revealed. The sinner shall not escape with his spoil, and the patient of the godly shall not be frustrated, which is the elect. Because the Lord is going to pour out his displeasure at the same time. We're changed. You see, we're going to be turned into immortals while Esau is being punished, man. Okay? This is the hell of an ending, okay, to the greatest movie ever, man. You see? But you can go back to that proverb, bro. If you mute, it might be mute, bro.
Can you hear me? Salaki.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
You said you was going to that word patent. You said Esau wants to patent you because the Constitution is for humans. But once you merge with that technology, technically you're not a human anymore. You're a machine, a cyborg. It's supposed to be like a mixture of human and technology. Now, this is that word patent real quick. It says a patent. Go ahead.
I said, yeah, a hybrid.
The water. It says a patent is a government granted exclusive right that allows an inventor to prevent others from making, using, or selling their invention for a limited period, typically 20 years. Here's the point. It said it applies to new, used, non-obvious inventions such as product, processes, or machines. So, and it says synonyms include protection, copyright, right, or license. So literally, once you merge this technology, this is why we say it's the ultimate rebellion, because you've given Esau exclusive right to you. He's gotten there. You know anything about exclusive rights? Exclusive rights is not is not limited. It says protection type. It is a form of in to intellectual property or IP. It's a right that acts as an exclusive right to the invention, meaning Esau ain't gonna have no limits to you. Once you allow him to put this device in you, you made it to ultimate rebellion. Esau has basically patented you, and you've given him exclusive rights to you, and that's why it's the ultimate betrayal, and that's why the Lord got to kill you. You know, it's like he has to unalive you.
Yep. Hey, because that's why the nigga want to tap into your neurons. Okay, that's why he wants to issue programmable money. Okay, and there's no telling, annual juice. Telling because Esau want to turn you to an experiment, man. Okay, but now, man, when you are going through the scripture, we know not to go down this path. As you're gonna keep reading into it, you got it, bro.
God, this is back in Proverbs chapter 1, verse 14. It says, "Cast in the lot among us, let us all have one purpose."
Oh, one purse. It said, "Cast in thy lot among us, let us all have one purse." Okay, so Esau's pretty much look gamble with me, and Esau gambling against the Most High in Yahushua. Esau like, look, gamble with me. If we pull this off, we'll have one purse. We'll get to enjoy, all right, this this utopia, this technocracy. We all gonna have one purse. Okay, so this is what the devil, because a purse, that's what you win. Okay, when you win a lot or a gamble, okay, you win the purse. Everybody that put in, okay, so you get that seal, that's you casting your lot with Esau, and you're betting on Esau, all right, to overcome prophecy, man. Okay, and Esau telling you what he got coming up next, and okay, you see, because he gonna promise this what you call this prosperity, this economic prosperity, the bag, okay, the UBI. It's gonna this why then he said the UBI, the high UBI, high income UBI, okay. He's advertising as if he's gonna give everybody the bag with his technology, man. But you got to cash your lot in with him. That means you got to bet on him and get that seal, man. You got it, bro.
Verse 15, it says, "My son, walk thou not in the way with them, refrain thy foot from their path."
Yep, go ahead. That broad gate, hey, because that path is that broad gate. It's a lot of people that's going to get ready to go on their broad gate. Which leads to destruction. Okay, but that straight gate, okay, that gate of depending on the Lord. You see, which is going to come with us being outcast, us losing, material things. But really, we're not losing, man, because the scripture say, "Who shall lose his life? All right, for my name's sake, shall gain everything." We finna gain everything, man. You got it, bro.
Verse 16, "For their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood."
Yo, so Esau is running. All right, this nigga is running to this new world order. Okay, he's trying to get this thing done. You see, so this devil expect this devil to be more frantic and more impulsive. Okay, because he's running to this mischief, which is a new world order. He's going to war. He done started a war to reset the economy, man. To do a global reset. There's literal blood being shed, man. Okay, for this man to try to pull this off. Okay, and it's just the beginning. Go ahead.
Gun. Verse 17. Surely in vain the net is spread with the straight slocking with the sight of any bird. In the
Yeah,
sight of
so yeah, surely is the vein, all right, surely in vain is a net spread in the sight of any bird. And see, we're that bird, okay, and we're able to see. So we're watching the devil roll it out. You see, we're watching the devil attempt to roll this out. We see the net, the trap, the new world order. It's a trap. The AI, okay, his technology, man, okay, his philosophies, everything about this man is a trap. And the Lord has us to where we're looking from a viewpoint to where we're seeing this nigga set the trap up. Okay, so we see you setting the trap. We know it's a trap. You see, but only the elect are able to truly see and have the spirit to resist the trap, man. Because when you go to real quick, let's get that in Psalms. Let me see, is it one? Might be 124. Oh yeah, let's go to Psalms 124 and 6. 6 and 7 real quick.
God, this Psalms chapter 124, verse 6 and 7, it says, Blessed be the Lord Yahweh, who has not given us as a prey to their teeth.
Yeah, so the Lord is not going to give the elect as a prey, to the teeth of Esau, which is his power, you know. So the Lord not gonna give us into the power of Esau, man. Okay? Because if something has you in their teeth or you're in their control of a wild beast, okay? Because what's the first thing you do, man? You try to put his teeth in you, man. Do damage unto you, man. Get full control of you, man. You see, and devour you, man. Okay? And a lot of people, the devil, he has them in their teeth. These enchantments, man. And now he's just gonna go forward and devour. Okay? Go ahead.
God, verse 7, it says, Our soul is escaped as a bird out of the snare of the fowlers. The snare is broken, we are escaped.
Yeah, so with that bird is going to escape. And what does a bird do to escape? It flies away. You see?
Mm-hmm.
Yahweh Shai, he's coming to break the trap because the snare is this system. And Yahweh Shai finna break up this whole system, man. And we're gonna be as a bird that escapes. Okay? Let's say you're a bird that's been in the cage, because this system is a cage, man. This is what they call prison planet. And now he wants to turn it to a digital prison planet. Okay, so when the Lord comes and breaks this system, this snare, hey, and we're gonna fly up in those chariots, man, like birds flying out of a cage, man.
Mm-hmm.
Birds that have been set free out of the cage. Okay, so you go back to that Proverbs Bible shop.
Back in Proverbs chapter 1, verse 18, it says, And they lay wait for their own blood, they lurk privately for their own lives.
Yeah, so Esau, he's setting himself up for failure to try to pull this off, and the Lord, set Esau up for failure. You see, Esau is working against himself, man. No matter how clever of certain gimmicks he done pulled off in the past, nigga, the foundation of it was set up for failure. Okay, if you build a house on a poor foundation, it don't matter how what type of architecture feats that you accomplish in the midst of building that house. The fact that you build it on a poor foundation, nigga, you set yourself up for failure. You don't matter that you got the gold railings, the silver. Okay, you see, you got the stones. Okay, and you just got all this magnificent architecture. But nigga, you built on the foundation of rebelling against the Most High. Okay, and this devil, he's trying to put more and more weight. Okay, on this poor foundation, it's going to collapse, man. Okay, with him in it. So this man has been building against himself, because if you build on a poor foundation, everything you do is pointless. Okay, because when the foundation collapse, everything collapse, man. Okay, you got it, bro.
Come, bro, if I may, It says, and they lay wait for their own lives.
You got
Every time I think of Esau with with his nukes and everything, what he don't know is the Bible says that the Lord said there's nothing newer than the sun. Same way in Esther, the book of Esther, how Haman, he thought he was building them gallows for Mordecai, but he really built them for himself.
yep.
He started thinking he building the nukes and everything, to destroy everybody or to, like I said, to lurk privately for their own lives. He thinking he's trying to secure his own, his own position. Same way Haman thought he was going to be able to secure his spot. He really created his own destruction. Esau really created his own the whole time he
Yep.
lurking for his own life, trying to make sure he's secure, the inheritance. He's actually securing his own demise and his own destruction.
Come on, bro. Yeah, he just everything he did brought him to this point to where he would have to deal with the wrath of the Lord. Because he was the character in the movie that the Lord chose to showcase power, man. All right, Esau was just a nigga set up for the Lord to showcase power, just to sum this nigga up, man. Okay, that's why in the kingdom it's gonna be like that nigga was never in power, and after a while it's gonna be like that nigga was never a nation, man. That nigga ain't even gonna be a conversation, man. That nigga ain't. Esau ain't done nothing magnificent, man. He just played his role in prophecy. Okay, he's a glorified punching bag, man. Yahweh Shah gonna come back, okay, and showcase power on that nigga, man. you know, like you don't know, nobody talks about those. To the you watch the karate competitions and they be busting them bricks. They build, they might come with 2 bricks, and then another nigga might come with 6 bricks. Just to show what power. Okay, nobody cares about those bricks. I want these. All right, the karate competition talking about the bricks. They talk about the one that broke the bricks. Okay, well that's gonna be your Howard Shaw was gonna break this thing up, man. Okay, so yeah, we can get that last one and close out, bro.
Come. What he tell Pharaoh? I'm gonna set you up just so I can showcase my power.
Yeah. Most I just stacking this nigga up like bricks, man, just so your Howard Shaw can come through, and can boom and power punching.
Because verse 19, it says, "So are the ways of verse 19. So are the ways of everyone that is greedy of gain, which taketh away the life of the owners thereof."
Yeah, he's greedy of gain. The nigga won't sit his ass down. Esau was a greedy nigga, man. He can never have enough. So this is his legacy. The Lord is showing you, look, this is what happens to a nigga that's greedy of gain. And Esau is the ultimate example, man, because he can never have enough. Okay, this man has all this wealth and he still outspends himself. This nigga has had this powerful military and he still spread himself too thin. Okay? Like people talk about how Jake, and certain athletes and rappers like, damn, how them niggas broke, they blew all their money. Which that's the curses. Okay? And Esau have, make niggas super consumers, but you look at Esau blew the earth. Like you had the whole earth, and how you got all this debt? This nigga's in debt to himself, and you got the earth. How you mismanage that? You see? Nigga trying to do these data centers ain't got no. Nigga trying to do the data center ain't got no oil, ain't got no water. This nigga got the earth and he fumbled the earth. Like Jake, they talk about Jake fumbled the bag. Esau fumbled the bag. He fumbled the whole earth. So yeah, this is what happened to a greedy nigga, man. Okay, Esau, all right, is an example of greed. Okay, so with that, we pray that you brothers, all right, and you few sisters edified once again. Want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. And double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutations to the hopeful, Shalom.
Shalom.